Let me, in a moment, come to those who will analyze the bigger picture as well as get a Jammu perspective. But let's also look at what's happened in the Kashmir Valley since the Narendra Modi government scrapped Article 370 in August 2019, promising a Naya Kashmir. But instead, what's happened? Internet shutdowns following the abrogation of 370 that have crippled the local economy. Here's a ground report.
आपकी मन की आशंकाओं को जम्मू कश्मीर की जनता पर क्यों थोप रहे हो? मैंने इसी सदन में कहा है और फिर से कहता हूं कि इस बिल का जम्मू कश्मीर के स्टेटहुड से कोई लेन देन नहीं है। उपयुक्त समय पर जम्मू कश्मीर को स्टेटहुड दिया जाएगा।
A statewide shutdown after abrogation of Article 370 that lasted months. An internet shutdown that lasted 200 days. And then a pandemic-forced shutdown. For more than 2 years now, Kashmir has been in perpetual lockdown. The strict lockdown and internet blackout inflicted huge economic pain on the local residents. The state suffered losses running into hundreds of crores. No sector remained unaffected due to the restrictions.
जहां एक तरफ कोविड तो दूसरी तरफ हड़ताल और बंदिशें और कर्फ्यू, तो सारा कुछ आपके सामने है। शायद आज भी इसी हवाले से दिल्ली में कोई बातचीत कश्मीर के पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स और वज़ीर-ए-आज़म के दरमियान चल रही है। उम्मीद तो यही करेंगे कि सब कुछ बेहतर हो जाए।
आम लोगों में भी बहुत सी नाराज़गियाँ भी हैं और उम्मीद उनके बिल्कुल बरखिलाफ हुआ है 5 अगस्त 2019 को जो फैसला पार्लियामेंट ने किया।
The valley tourism sector suffered the most. Days before the abrogation of Article 370, the centre had asked all tourists to leave Kashmir, citing security concerns. The industry never picked up after that.
60% लोग मुंसलिक है और उनकी हालत नागुफ्तबे है। इसी तरह जो पढ़ाई का मसला हुआ है, हमारी नौजवान नस्ल जो हमारी नई जनरेशन है उन पर बहुत बुरा असर पड़ा है।
Education is the other sector that suffered. Schools and colleges were closed for long periods, and the months-long internet blackout added to the students' woes.
2 से 2.5 साल तक से यहाँ पे जो इकोनॉमिकल कंडीशन है इस वक्त जम्मू कश्मीर की, तो वो सब लोगों के सामने है और स्टूडेंट्स का नुकसान हुआ, इंडस्ट्री का नुकसान हुआ, शिकारे वालों का नुकसान हुआ, होटलियर्स का नुकसान हुआ, किसका नुकसान नहीं हुआ।
The centre says development and growth will come to the valley now because many roadblocks have been removed. The citizens of Kashmir say the wait seems to be longer than expected. With Shujaul Haq in Srinagar, Bureau Report, India Today.
So can the Prime Minister's meeting really end the dil ki doori with Kashmir? Are elections the key to it? What really explains the thaw in relations between Delhi and Srinagar? Professor Amitabh Mattoo, from Jawaharlal Nehru University, one of the country's premier analysts on Jammu and Kashmir, Kashmir watcher, J&K watcher for years. Ranbir Pathania, BJP spokesperson, is also with us from Jammu. I'll come to you, Professor Mattoo, in a moment. But let me just get a quick BJP perspective, because Ranbir Pathania, the BJP has been calling for, in a sense, Jammu's rights to be restored. The Prime Minister today has invited all parties. He invited the so-called Gupkar gang as well. Do you see this as an icebreaker? Yes. Are you satisfied with what has come out of the meeting?
Yes. Absolutely, Rajdeep. We are as a whole satisfied. Everybody has come with a positive mood. Irrespective of conflicting ideologies and standpoints, one thing which is appreciative that on peace and development, almost everybody has a broader consensus on it. The ice has been broken, and how Jammu and Kashmir could be taken forward. A virtual blueprint. No doubt, I was hearing you earlier also. You accused Umar Abdullah.
I don't know
that
what
Umar
is the
Sahib,
blueprint.
you said, what to talk of new...
I don't know what is this blueprint.
Sir, blueprint is... I am coming to it, sir. Post 5th of August 2019, first of all, unrolling of the political process in Jammu and Kashmir, and Jammu and Kashmir should have a duly elected government in place. Secondly, what we could say very precisely and very properly, delimitation. Moreover, there have been cries, this area has been delimited, this area has been discriminated, this area has been neglected, a very, very comprehensive delimitation. And sorry, I need to correct your part, not for Jammu, BJP stands for Jammu and Kashmir. The entire Jammu and Kashmir should get justice, delimitation, political process, and first of all, a people's government with full support on everlasting peace and development from the central side. This is virtually the blueprint which should have been formed, despite all conflicting
and with full
ideologies,
statehood.
as I said, on peace and development, with full statehood. We are committed to it with full statehood. This is what it has been reiterated by the Home Minister on the floor of the Parliament, sir. And today also it has again been reiterated. And let's keep our fingers crossed. This happy moment comes. Jammu and Kashmir is a state, was a state, and will remain a state ever, though this is an intervening period, and it will also come over.
Okay, let me come to you now, Professor Mattoo. We've heard all the politicians. I want you to give us a sense. First, I want to ask you the question many are asking. Why now? Why suddenly? What has changed? Is it the belief that the geopolitics of the region is changing, the back channel talks with Pakistan, the Americans pulling out of Afghanistan, a Biden administration putting pressure on the Modi government to restore statehood in Kashmir? What's changed that suddenly you have the same Gupkar gang of 6 months ago, now VVIPs at the prime ministerial high table?
I think two things have changed. First of all, let me also make it clear that I don't think international pressure works on India on Jammu and Kashmir. In the early 90s, Rajdeep, you remember, Robin Raphael was Assistant Secretary of State with the Bill Clinton administration, with a weak coalition government of Narasimha Rao, and the Kashmir Valley was seeing the worst uprising in years. She questioned the accession of Jammu and Kashmir to India. Rao and his advisors didn't move an inch on J&K. Now, obviously, people prefer calm in the neighborhood, would like fewer irritants in bilateral relations. But in terms of actual pressure, I don't think that works in India. I think this whole bogey of the Taliban suddenly coming to our doorsteps is again a bogey. I've heard this before. I think Taliban is going to pose a huge problem in Afghanistan, but I don't think that that's an issue for Jammu and Kashmir. Talibanization is an issue for the subcontinent in a larger sense. In terms of the ceasefire, it's held on. And you have what you now see are differences between the army leadership and Pakistan. So I don't think pressure from Pakistan immediately is any sense of, or a desire to give Pakistan a face server is working at all. I think this, contrary to what people think, counterintuitively, at this moment, New Delhi realizes it can act from a position of complete strength. The border is calm. The valley isn't seeing any kind of discontent expressed on the streets. All the mainstream leaders seem to have recognized that politics ultimately is the art of the possible. So they're willing to enter into a dialogue. What better opportunity than now? So it's rather than say, is New Delhi or Modi doing it under pressure? I think they've recognized that there is a window here. Let's try and make use of that opportunity. Obviously, in politics, you call someone names and you put them in jail. Yesterday and today, you'll be dining together. That's happened now. But that happened if you look at Kashmir even in the 1950s.
But what is the...
Sheikh Abdullah, just for a second.
Yes.
For 11 years. And then he came and stayed with Panditji in Teen-Murti Bhavan. No one could accuse Panditji of being an illiberal.
No, so what has changed? I'm still trying to understand what is the roadmap. Let's put it this way. You're saying that the Prime Minister and the government are coming from a position of strength in a way. They've seen a window of opportunity. But what is the roadmap? I think
the roadmap has been, I've heard all the statements of the leaders. I think the person who has signaled what the roadmap has is Ghulam Nabi Azad. He talked about 5 different principles. One, restoration of statehood, complete statehood, not a partial statehood with a J&K cadre of IAS and IPS officers. Secondly, early elections, and that might happen following delimitation, but everyone will participate in a delimitation exercise which will be seen as fair and impartial. Third is that there will be a stronger insurance in terms of domicile laws to prevent land alienation and job reservation, and that's a concern, frankly, in Jammu, and there are already caveats put within the domicile laws, and most importantly, and unfortunately, I do not often like to speak about my own community, the rehabilitation and the return with dignity and honor of the Kashmiri Pandits. This is the roadmap. I think the mainstream of Jammu and Kashmir seems to be reluctantly agreeing to this roadmap. Obviously, I think it's important for their political constituencies to keep the demand of 370 alive. Fortunately, it is sub judice, so you don't need to express it more robustly at the moment, given that the Honorable Supreme Court hasn't taken up the case. But what you are beginning to see, and if there are meetings which build on this today, are the emergence of almost a new consensus on Jammu and Kashmir. Will this consensus last? Can the constituency be expanded to bring in more stakeholders? Time will tell. Is the government of India serious? Will the leaders in Jammu and Kashmir face a backlash? I think we'll have to see that as well. But you have a new consensus emerging, which is what I think you should focus on.
Okay, so you're saying that this is the beginning, in a way, of a potentially new compact between Delhi and Srinagar, which should be welcomed, and time will tell whether it will last or whether it will be a false dawn. Professor Mattoo, appreciate your joining us as well here on this special. Thank you both very much for joining me on our special today as we focused on Jammu and Kashmir. Now,